Shalom Yasha'Allah. It's Brother Mapathak. That'll be key, but in the ancient Paleo Hebrew. Right? And it's going to be a video going into the topic of Esau being exterminated, right? And being extinct in the kingdom of heaven. You understand? Right? Because we're going to have Esau in captivity, right? We're going to have the different nations in captivity. But Esau, the so-called white man, he's going extinct, right? He's going to be no more, right? He's going to be out of our memory and after 1,000 years in the kingdom of heaven, right? We're going to go into the scriptures and prove this, right? Because a lot of people don't like to hear this. What do you mean the white man is not going to be, they're going to be exterminated? What do you mean Esau is going to be extinct, right? That's a lot of people, they don't like to hear that, man. Hey, but that's the Holy Bible. Right, but before we go into it, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High God Yahweh, by Hashem Mashiach wa Malaki Hawashai. That's all praise to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world will ignorantly call Jesus Christ. But we know Him as Yahawashi in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, which is the King and the Savior of Yasha'Allah, man. Right, and I want to start it off in the book of Revelation, chapter 20. Right, and we can start from verse 4, and it says, "I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them." And this is speaking about the elect, right? Well, I should say the 144,000 to be more specific. You understand? Those that's going to be the governing body in the kingdom of heaven. It says, "And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahawashi, and for the word of the Most High, which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither has received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Yahawashi 1,000 years." Right? And that's not a literal 1,000 years, right? Christians would break this down and say that after 1,000 years, the so-called white man or Satan is going to come back and take over the kingdom. Hey, when the Lord is reigning, when Yahawashi is reigning, nobody's going to come back and take his kingdom, man. You understand? This is not a literal 1,000 years. 1,000 years is just a complete amount of time. And in this context, it's going into forever, man. Right? Yahawashi's kingdom is going to be forever. A real quick precept, just to touch on that, right? The classic. This is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 14. And it says, I start from 13. It says, "And I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages shall serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion," right? Yahawashi's dominion is an everlasting dominion. So after 1,000 years, a damn red devil with a pitchfork is not going to come and take over Yahawashi's kingdom, right? Because he have an everlasting dominion. It says, "Which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed." So when you go precept upon precept, you can clearly see that the kingdom is going to last forever. That's not a literal 1,000 years, right? So I just wanted to make that point. And there's various other precepts, but I want to get past this point, right? Because that's not the point of the lesson that I'm trying to get to, right? So verse 5, right? This is the actual verse that I really want to deal with. It says, "But the rest of the dead," right, "lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished." And this can trip a lot of brothers up, you understand? When it goes into it speaks about the elect, right? It speaks about those that's going to reign with Yahawashi 1,000 years. And then it just goes on to say, "But the rest of the dead," right, "lived not again until 1,000 years were finished." This is the first resurrection, right? So the first resurrection is just going into those that's beamed up, right? And it's going into the first 1,000 years of the kingdom of heaven, right? And it says, I'm going to read on and then I'm going to go back to verse 5, right? It says, "Blessed and holy is he that have part in the first resurrection." So you're blessed and holy when you're beamed up and you see the salvation of the Lord, right? And you spend those first 1,000 years in the kingdom with the Lord, right? It says, "On such the second death have no power." And the second death, which is on a manifold level, the lake of fire, right? Because you had the first death, which is the flood, and now the second death is the lake of fire, right? It has no power over those that was beamed up. You understand? Because they didn't experience that death, right? So that's why it says this. I'm gonna read it again. Blessed and holy is he that have part in the first resurrection, meaning they were beamed up. They saw the salvation of the Lord. On such the second death have no power, right? And that lake of fire didn't have any power over those men, right? Because they were saved from it. And it says, but they shall be priests of the Most High and of Yahushai, and shall reign with him 1,000 years, right? And once again, they're going to reign with Yahushai forever, right? But I want to touch on this verse 5. It says, but the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished, right? And this is speaking about the nations. When it says, but the rest of the dead live not again, is speaking about the nations, right? Because the nations are going to be in hard bondage and captivity for 1,000 years, and they're going to be in the lowest of lowest states. That's why they're likened unto a dead man, just like us, man. Right? You constantly read through the scriptures that Israelites, that we're dead, man. Right? We were spiritually dead, mentally dead, right? Because we were in a lower state, right? And we were in hard captivity and bondage. Right? That's why even when you go to Revelation 11 and verse 8, it says, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. And this is speaking about Israel, right? Which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified, right? So we're in a dead estate right now. You understand? So that's what it's going into in Revelation 20 about the nations, right? We're going to go into some precepts to prove it, right? So I'm going to read Revelation 20 and 5 again. And it says, but the rest of the dead, which is speaking about the nations being in the lowest state, right? Because they're going to be in hard bondage. They're going to literally build up the kingdom of heaven. It says, live not again, meaning they didn't have their own dwelling place, right? They didn't have their own territory. They didn't, everything, they were under hard bondage, right? It's just plain. It says they live not again until the 1,000 years were finished. But after 1,000 years were finished, they're not going to be under such hard bondage. Right, they're going to have their own cities. Right, they're going to have their own different dwelling places. Right, Moab might dwell here. Right, then the Ethiopians might dwell here. So on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? And it says until the 1,000 years were finished. So I want to touch on that. Let's go to Revelation 2. Right, and it's Revelation chapter 2 and verse 26, and it reads, and he that overcometh, real fast, I want to get this in Ezekiel 39, right? Just to make that point clear, that you have to understand that when a lake of fire hits the earth, right, and all this destruction is upon the earth from Yahushai and the angels and the nuclear fire, right, Armageddon, you have to understand the earth has to be restored, and that's what the nations are going to be doing, right, for that first 1,000 years. That's why they're going to be under such hard bondage. They're going to be restoring the earth. You understand? They're going to have to build up the earth, right? We're not going to do these things. We're going to be their taskmasters, right? But I want to bring this out in Ezekiel 39. In verse 14, it says, and they shall sever out men of continual employment. And that's what we're going to do in that day. We're going to be severing out men of continual employment, right? Meaning they're going to be under bondage, right? Servitude. It says, passing through the land to bury the passengers, those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search, right? And it says, and that 7 months is just going into a complete amount of time, right? The number 7 is just the number of completion. And it says, and the passengers that pass through the land, when any seeth a man's bone, right? Because there's going to be a bunch of dead bodies on the earth. It says, then shall he set a sign by it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamon-Gog, right? But the point is, they're going to restore the earth. They're going to cleanse the earth. If they see bones, Salakia. Salakia for the ad. Right? I'm just going to kind of keep that off. Right? So if they see the bones, they're going to have to clean the bones of dead bodies. This is the work that the nations are going to be doing. And that's why they're going to be under hard bondage for 1,000 years. Right? And it says, that's all I wanted on that. But that just shows that we're going to have to pick out these nations for servitude. Right? Because the Lord said this in Deuteronomy 30 and verse 7. And it reads, and the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies. So all the curses that the Israelites went through, the Lord are going to put these curses upon our enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. You see that? So that's why they're going to have to go through these things for 1,000 years. That's why they're going to have to deal with this hard bondage, right? It's playing upon tables. And I want to go to Isaiah 60, right? Just to make this plain. The nations are going to build up the kingdom of heaven, right? You think, hey, and our heaven is this whole earth. Our paradise is going to be the whole earth, right? How long do you think it's going to take to restore the whole earth after what the so-called white man did to the earth, man? Right? After what's going to happen in the time of Armageddon, right? When Yahushua and the angels return, right? It's going to be a bunch of nuclear fire all around the earth, right? A bunch of destruction, right? They're going to have to restore these things. They're going to have to cleanse the land, man, right? And this is Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 10, and it reads, "And the sons of strangers," speaking about the heathen, "shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath have I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee." Right? And the point is, the nations are going to build up the walls, right, of the kingdom. It says, "Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces," meaning the spoils, the riches of the Gentiles, "and that their kings may be brought," right? And their kings are going to be brought. That's what the Lord said. Their kings are going to be brought. And what are the kings of the nations going to be brought for? Let's read it. Right? Let's go to Psalms chapter 149 and verse 5. And it reads, "Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth, and the two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people." Right? It says to bind their kings with chains. So why did Isaiah 60, chapter 60 say their kings were going to be brought? It's because we're going to bind their kings in chains, and their nobles with fetters of iron. They're going to be put into hard bondage, into slavery, right? The damn Rothschilds of this world, right? The Joe Bidens of this world, the Donald Trumps, the rich men of this world, man, the kings of this world, right? So called. They're going to be bound in fetters and chains, right, of iron. It says to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise ye Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, man. And we can't wait for that day, man. Right? We can't wait until the day that the nations bring their kings to us so we can bind them up in chains, man. Right? For all the things that they did unto our people. Right? And we're just waiting on the Lord because we understand vengeance is of the Lord. Right? We're not in a rush. Right? We can't wait. But hey, it's all of the Lord, man, right? And part of this thing is being patient, right? And patience possessing your souls, right? So we're patiently waiting for the Lord to return so we can experience these promises, man. These beautiful things that the Lord got prepared for his saints, right? Lord willing, we part of that number, man. Right? So that's why the kings are going to be brought into us as well, because they're going to be locked in chains, right? Hey, and this is how it's always supposed to be. It's in the law. Right, for us to have the slaves of the other nations, right? It's Leviticus chapter 25 and in verse 45. And that's why they're going to always be our slaves. So don't think after 1,000 years they're not going to be in captivity anymore. They're going to still be in bondage, but it's not going to be as hard of a bondage to the point that they're spiritually and mentally dead, right? As it was for the first 1,000 years, right? So this Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 45, and it reads, "Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy," right? "And of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, they shall be your possession." So the heathen were always meant to be our possession, right? And this is in the law. And in the kingdom of heaven, the laws is going to be in our hearts. You understand? So we're going to fulfill these things, right? In verse 46, and it says, "And ye shall take them as an inheritance," right? "For your children after you." Right, and we're gonna pass them the slaves that we have down to our children. You understand? And it says to inherit them for a possession. "They shall be your bondmen forever." It was always supposed to be like this from the beginning, right? Since we first received the law, the heathen were supposed to be our bondmen, right? And that's what we're gonna get in the kingdom of heaven. They're gonna literally build up our kingdom, right? And it says, Salakia, "Forever, but over your brethren and children of Israel shall you not rule one over another with rigor," right? Well, we wouldn't treat one of our brothers as a slave and rule over him with rigor. You understand? But hey, in the law, we were always supposed to have the heathen as servants, and that's why they're going to be in hard bondage, and that's why they're going to build up the kingdom of heaven, right? And especially Esau, right? And that's what I really wanted to touch on, right? But through the Spirit, I just went into the nations as well, but especially Esau. Esau is going to get it. Right, because Esau is going to be recompensed double for what they did to us, man. Right, and It's Revelation chapter 18 and verse 6. And it reads, reward her even as she rewarded you. And this is speaking about Babylon, right? And we know Babylon is synonymous with the Edomites because it's their dwelling place, right? They're the kings of Babylon, right? It says, reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. You see that? And it says, and the cup which she had filled to her double, right? And Esau is the most wicked nation, man, right? And that's why she's going to be recompensed double for what she did, right? And ultimately, Esau is going to be exterminated from off the face of the earth. Esau is going to be extinct, right? Because the other nations, they're going to rejoice in the kingdom of heaven eventually, right? They're going to be able to live in the kingdom of heaven, right? After the 1,000 years, right? They're going to be able to live again. They're going to be rejoicing. They're going to literally rejoice. You read about that in Proverbs 29, right? And through the Spirit, we're going to get that. But Esau is still going to be disobedient. Esau is still going to be wicked, right? Even in the land of the upright, man, right? And that's where they're going to have to be extinct. Let's get that in Isaiah 26, right? And some of the other nations are going to be off as well, right? They're going to still be going off. They're not going to have the laws in their inward parts, so they're going to still be going off, but they're not going to be wicked like Esau, right? So this is Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 10, and it reads, let favor be showed to the wicked, right? Yet will he not learn righteousness, right? So even if the Lord was to show the wicked favor, he still wouldn't learn righteousness, man. Esau's still not going to get it, man, right? It says, in the land of uprightness, speaking about in the kingdom of heaven, in the land of uprightness, will he deal unjustly? He's still going to be dealing unjustly in the land of uprightness, right? And it says, and will not behold the majesty of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, man. He's not going to behold the majesty of the Lord. He's still going to be dealing unjustly. And that's why he's not going to be able to dwell with us forever. You understand? That's why Esau cannot dwell in the kingdom of heaven forever, right? Because he's just too unjust. He's wicked, right? He's the border of wickedness, right? And that's why in the kingdom of heaven, the so-called white man is going to be extinct, right? And let's go into it. Psalms chapter 109 and verse 13. And it says, let his posterity be cut off, right? And in the generation following, let their name be blotted out. So his posterity, let's go into that word posterity, right? What is that going into? Posterity. In issue, ladder. Is this the right word, Salakia? His posterity. Yeah, this is the word I wanted. They're not giving me the actual definition, right? Let's go into it on Google. Show you what posterity is. It kind of goes into it because it says it's time, but this is what posterity is going into. It says all future generations of people, the descendants of a person. That's what it means when it says let his posterity be cut off. So sometimes the blue letter is not always on point, right? But yeah, it goes into it. It says posterity, so they just assume you would know what posterity means, right? But yeah, it says, let his posterity be cut off, and in the generation following, let their name be blotted out, and their name is going to be blotted out from the face of the earth. Let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. Let them be before Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai continually, that he may cut off the memory of them from the earth. Right? So their memory is literally going to be cut off from the earth. We're not going to remember the so-called white man in the kingdom of heaven after 1,000 years, man. Nobody going to be thinking about Esau. Right? It says, because that he remembered not to show mercy, but persecuted the poor and needy man. And we know that's what the so-called white man does still today. Right? They persecute the poor and the needy men. Right? And they don't show anybody mercy. You understand? It says that he might even slay the broken in the heart, man. Right? And that's us. We're the brokenhearted. Right? And Esau seeks to slay us constantly. That's Psalms chapter 37 and verse 32. Right? The wicked watches the righteous and seeketh to slay them, man. Right? Roughly paraphrasing. Let's go to Job. Right? So you're going to see throughout the scriptures that Esau is going to be exterminated. Right? Matter of fact, I just go straight to the shotgun just so brothers don't be kind of being simple. Well, it doesn't say Esau in that context. Right? I don't see the name Esau. Hey, let's make it plain, man. Right? Because a lot of people, they love the so-called white man. A lot of brothers probably kind of getting upset, man, listening to the prophecies of the Lord, man. Right? But let's see what the Lord said. Right? Before we even go into the other precepts, let's just make it plain that Esau is the nation that's prophesied in the scriptures to go extinct. right? To be exterminated from off the face of the earth. This is Obadiah, right? We have to go straight to the shotgun, man, right? This Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 18. And it reads, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, right? And they shall kindle in them and devour them, right? And this is the point. You can't get past this. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, have spoken it. That's plain, man. The Lord says there's not going to be any remaining of the house of Esau. So when we're going through these precepts and we're reading about this nation whose posterity is going to be cut off, whose branches are going to be cut off, we're reading about Esau, right? Let's go to Job now. I just wanted to make that plain. It's Job chapter 18 and verse 14. Because I know Jake, right? I know Jake. Hey, it doesn't say anything about Esau. Hey, you got to go to Obadiah, man. Right? So this is Job chapter 18 and verse 14. And it reads, his confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle. It shall bring him to the king of terrors. You understand? And who's the king of terrors? That's the Lord, man. Right? It says, and it shall dwell in his tabernacle because it is none of his. Brimstone shall be scattered upon his habitation. Right? And what's the habitation? The chief habitation of the so-called white man is Babylon. And we know it's going to be destroyed with fire and brimstone. Right? It says his roots. What is his roots? Right? It says his roots shall be dried up beneath, and above shall his branch be cut off. His roots is going into his lineage. Right? And his branch is going into the seed. You understand? His seed line, his descendants, they're all going to be cut off. Right? It says his remembrance shall perish from the face of the earth. That's plain. He shall have no name in the street. He shall be driven from light into darkness and chased out of the world. He shall neither have son nor nephew among his people, nor any remaining in his dwellings. Going into the same prophecies. The scriptures doesn't say this about any other nation. It's just speaking about Esau in the spirit. Right? In verse 20, it says, they that come after him shall be astonished at his day. Right? It's speaking about the nations. The nations, when they see Esau become extinct, they're going to be astonished. Right? They're going to fear. Right? After they see the judgment that's going to come upon Esau. It says, as they that went before were frightened. You see what I'm saying? So now the nations are going to fear when they see the judgment that's brought upon Esau. Them being literally slaughtered, right? And extinct from off the face of the earth. And in that day, the nations are going to submit, right? After that 1,000 years, right? After all that hard bondage, right? And let's go to Isaiah 14. We got to bring out the classic. Salaki, this is Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 21, and it reads, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Right? That's plain. They're not going to possess the land, or they're not going to what's the word I'm looking for? Reproduce. Right? It says, for I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Right? He's going to cut off their lineage. We're constantly reading the same thing, precept upon precept. I will also make it a possession for the bitter and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith Yahweh of hosts. Right? And that's just going into Babylon not going to be inhabited anymore, right? After Babylon is destroyed. Right? And let's go to Job. Let's go back to Job. Right? So, hey, you see it throughout the precepts. The so-called white man is going to be destroyed. This is Job to the 20 and verse 4, and it reads, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon the earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite before a moment. Right? And the wicked is going into the so-called white man. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, right? He's a proud man. So-called white men kind of got the all-seeing eye spirit. They got cameras everywhere. They want to know what everybody's doing. They want to be like the Most High. You read about that in Isaiah 14, right? They want to set up this new beast system, right? The so-called one world government, right? They want to do all these things. They want to be like the Most High. They're proud, right? And this is why they have to be extinct, man. They slayed the Israelites in the street in cold blood, right? They locked the Israelites up in prison houses for all their damn lives, man, right? And this is why they have to be recompensed double for their iniquity, right? It says, though his excellency mount up to the heavens and his head reach unto the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. He's going to perish forever. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? Like we're constantly reading, there's going to be no more remembrance of him. They're going to be like, where is he? What happened? What's going on with Esau? Right? He's going to be out of there. right? He shall fly away as a dream and shall not be found. He's never going to be found again. It's going to be no more Edomites. Yeah, he shall be chased away as the vision of a night. And this whole thing is good, but that's the point. It's going to be no more Esau. No more of the so-called white man. Right? And to the saints and to the elect, that's a beautiful thing to their ears, man. That's like music to their ears, man. Right? But to these damn coons and these fake Israelites that's not going to make it, they hate the sound of this right now. But everybody is going to make it. God loves, that's off, man. We read in the scriptures right now. Right? A lot of people want to fight against the words of the Most High and call themselves a saint and call themselves a man of the Lord. But yet they can't get down with the words of the Lord, man. Right? And they're not going to make it. Right? They just not going to make it. That's plain. Let's go to Daniel 7. Go to Daniel 7, man. Right? It's Daniel chapter 7 and verse 7, and it reads, "After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast." Right? And we know this fourth beast is dealing with the Roman Empire. It says, "Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly." Right? And we know the Roman Empire is also dealing with really dealing with NATO, right, in the European Union, right, which powers America, right? So it's pretty much going into the same thing. And it says, "Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns." Right? We know that 10 horns is chiefly dealing with the European Union and NATO, right? And it says, "I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn." What is that little horn? It's America. "Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots." Right? And who did America pluck up? Well, I'm not really trying to go into an in-depth Daniel 7 breakdown. Right? So I'm just read on. Right? But the 3 horns that America plucked up was France, right? And I believe it was the Quasi War. Right? Salaki, if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Right? You had Spain, which was the Spanish American War, right? And I believe it's Britain, right? And I don't remember the exact war, right? So Salakia. Right, and it says, "And behold, in his Salaki, and this horn were eyes like the eyes of men, and a mouth speaking great things." Right, and I kind of want to get to the point. I want to jump down. Bear with me, Yasha. It says, I'm gonna go to verse. I'm gonna read on, right? Verse 8, Salakia. "I considered the horns, and behold," Salakia, verse 9, "I beheld till the thrones were cast down." Right? So, it's going to be cast down. America is going to be cast down. Right? These Edomite nations, they're going to be cast down. "And the ancients of days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like a pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire." Right? Speaking about the chariots. "A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him," going into the angels. "The judgment was set, and the books were opened." Salakia, not the angels, right? And Salakia, I'm kind of going off. I don't even really want to break down this chapter. I'm trying to get to a specific point. In verse 11, it says, "I beheld them because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body was destroyed and given to the burning flame." Going into when the America is going to be destroyed. Right? And this is the point I was trying to get to, right? Verse 12. "As concerning the rest of the beasts," right? And this is speaking about the rest of the nations. "They had their dominion taken away." So they were brought to a lower state. They had their kingdom taken away. "Yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time." Yet they're still going to live. Right? Yet they're still going to live. But Esau is going to be taken down and exterminated. Right? That's the point I wanted to get to. Right? And let's go to Psalms 21. Psalms 21 and verse 10. And it reads, "Their fruit shalt thou destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men." That's plain. Right? So the wicked, the so-called white man, their fruit is going to be destroyed from the face of the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. It's going to be no more Edomites, man. Right? And I want to go into Exodus 2, just to show you how it wouldn't even make sense for the Edomites to continue any longer than that 1,000 years, right? This is Exodus chapter 17 and verse 16. It reads, "For he said, because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai have sworn that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." That's plain, right? So if they were to still be in the kingdom of heaven, that means we're going to be constantly at war with them. But we could read in Revelation 21 and verse 4 and various other precepts, it's going to be no more war and no more pain in the kingdom of heaven. So it's not possible for us to continue to have war with Amalek after generation after generation. And the Lord sworn this, man. Right? So that's plain. And Amalek is descendants of Edomites, just in case, just for edification's sake. Right? So there's going to be no more Esau, man. After that, 1,000 years. I want to go back to Revelation 20 and 5 and read it again. It's Revelation 20 and 5. And it says, but the rest of the dead, and this is speaking about the nations, live not again until the 1,000 years were finished, right? Because they're going to live again because we're going to let up off of them. It's not going to be as hard as a bondage. They're not going to be in hardcore slavery after 1,000 years, right? They're going to still be in captivity, but then it's not going to be hardcore bondage to the point that we're beating them, right? Hey, you see what I'm saying? It's not going to be that type of hardcore bondage at that time. They're just going to be living in our kingdom, right? But they're still going to be in captivity to us, right? They're going to always be our bondmen, right? It says, until the 1,000 years were finished, right? This is the first resurrection, and they're gonna live well in the kingdom of heaven after that. You understand? A lot of brothers don't like to hear that. The nations are not gonna always just be getting their ass beat by us, right? And so I for the language, but just to make it plain, they're not gonna always have that hardcore rod upon them. You understand? The nations are gonna live well in the kingdom of heaven. We're righteous men. We're men of the Lord. We're gonna rule in righteousness, right? According to the laws of the Most High. When we have them in slavery, we're not going to be buck breaking their men, right? Because we're not homosexuals, right? We're not going to be having sex with their woman in front of the husband's face because we're not adulterers. You understand? And we're not unrighteous men, right? So we're going to rule in authority, and that's why you read about in Proverbs 29 and verse 2. Let's get it. That the nations are going to actually rejoice when we're in power, right? They're not going to be in a state of sorrow, right? When the Israelites are in power. This Proverbs 29 and verse 2. And it reads, when the righteous are in authority, meaning the elect, meaning the Lord, Yahweh Shai is on his kingdom. The people rejoice. That, hey, the whole world is going to rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And that's why the world is in a state of mourning right now, because the wicked beareth rule, right? But when the righteous are in authority, everybody is going to rejoice, man. You have to understand these things. We're not going to just be wicked judges, man. We're not going to be wicked rulers, right? We're not going to be the same way Esau was. Brothers have to understand that, right? Because brothers think in the kingdom of heaven, they're going to just wake up every day and, oh, I'm in a bad mood. Let me just spank Esau for fun, right? Let me, whatever it may be. Let me take this Moabite's wife from him and just have sex with her in front of his face. That's not how it's going to go in the kingdom of heaven, man. We're not wicked men, right? That's not where we come from. We're righteous judges. We're righteous rulers, right? Let's get another one. In Proverbs 11 and verse 10, and it reads, when it goeth well with the righteous, the city rejoiceth. You see that? And it says, and when the wicked perish, there is shouting. And people are going to shout for joy when the wicked perish, right? When Esau is gone from off the face of the earth, the people are going to shout for joy in that day. That's plain. The Lord said, and when the wicked perish, there is shouting. There's going to be a shouting out for joy when there's no more Edomites on the face of the earth, man. Right? And I want to bring this out just to touch on the point that I was just going into, that we're going to bring justice upon the earth. And that's why the people are going to rejoice. The people are going to live good in our kingdom. Right? That's what it is. The nations, besides Esau, because he's going to be exterminated, after 1,000 years, the nations are going to live good in our kingdom. Right? They're not going to always just be oppressed. Right? That's not us. That's not the Israelites, man. We're righteous rulers. Right? The nations are going to live good. Yes, they're going into captivity. Yes, they're going to be under us. Yes, they're Salakia. Yes, for 1,000 years, they're going into hardcore bondage. But after that, they're going to live a good life in the kingdom of heaven. Right? In our kingdom. A lot of brothers can't fathom that. This is Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 5, and it reads, behold, the day is come, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and the king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. So we're going to judge righteously. And this is speaking about Yahushai, right? Yahushai is going to judge righteously, and he's going to bring justice upon the earth, right? And I want to bring this out in Micah. chapter 4 and verse 1, and it reads, "But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai shall be established in the top of the mountains," right? So we're going to be the leading government. We're going to be the leading nation, right? "And it shall be exalted above the hills, above the other nations, and people shall flow unto it," right? And it says, "And many nations shall come and say, Come and let us go to the mountain of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, and to the house of the Most High God of Jacob, and he will teach of us his ways." And we're going to teach the laws to the other nations, right? And it says, "And we will walk in his paths." And the other nations, they're going to submit, and they're going to walk in the ways of they're going to walk in the law, statutes, and commandments. You understand? And it says, and some of them are going to still go off. You can read about that in Zechariah 14, right? Where some are going to say they're not coming, they don't want to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, right? And there's going to be judgment for them. There's going to be punishment. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to have the laws in their hearts like us. But hey, they're going to be taught the laws. And it says, "And he will teach of us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai from Jerusalem." Right? "And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks." It says, meaning there's going to be no more war. They're not going to have any more weapons. We're going to take their weapons away from them, man. Right? They're not going to be able to fight against us anymore. Right? It says, "Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." There's going to be no more war in the kingdom of heaven. Right? Let's go to Revelation 21. Right? So it's going to be peace in the kingdom of heaven. Right? And Salaki, I want 21. Right? So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 21 and verse 4, and it reads, "And the Most High shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There should be no more death." Right? And it's speaking about to the Israelites. We're not going to die anymore because we're going to have incorruptible bodies. "Neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." Right? And that's a good precept too. But I actually wanted this in Revelation 22 to touch on the fact that the nations are going to live well in the kingdom of heaven. They're not going to get all the promises we have. Not going to have incorruptible bodies. Not going to have eternal life. Hey, but they're going to live well, right? They're going to eat of the leaves of the tree. They're not going to have the fruits, but they're going to eat the leaves. This is Revelation chapter 22 and verse 2. I'm going to start from 1. It says, "And he showed me a pure river of water of life," which is perfect doctrine, perfect understanding, perfect knowledge. We're going to have the laws in our hearts. It says, "Clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of the Most High and of the Lamb." It's the point I want, verse 2. "In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there a tree of life," right? And the fruits of that tree of life is how we get eternal life, right? It's spiritual. It says, "Which bear 12 manner of fruits," right? "For the 12 tribes of Israel, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations." So the nations are going to live well. They're going to be healed. You understand? But Esau, like we went into multiple precepts, is going to be exterminated after that 1,000 years. So I'm going to close out going back to Revelation 20 and verse 5. It says, "But the rest of the dead," this is speaking about none other but the nations, right? Who's going to be dead for the first 1,000 years, spiritually and mentally, right? And even physically. Well, I wouldn't say physically, right? Because that'll kind of throw some brothers off, right? Those sisters off. But it says, they're going to be dead mentally and spiritually because of the hard bondage that they're going to be under for the first 1,000 years. It says, "But the rest of the dead live not again." And that's how they're going to live again, right? Because they're going to be let loose from that hard bondage. It says until the 1,000 years were finished, right? But after that 1,000 years, Esau is going to be exterminated. And we went through the precepts to prove that. And it says this is the first resurrection. The first resurrection is that first 1,000 years, man. Right? And I'm going to read verse 6 again. "Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death have no power, but they shall be priests of the Most High and of Yahushai, and shall reign with him 1,000 years." Right? And that's forever, man. We went into Daniel 7:13 to show that Yahushai's kingdom is going to be an everlasting kingdom. Right? So Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect. Lord willing, brothers and sisters got the understanding thereof. Right? I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Right? Hey, Esau, the so-called white man, is going to be exterminated from off the face of the earth. Thus saith Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Thus saith the Holy Bible, man. Right? Shalom, Yasha'Allah.